Hello, vinyl community. This is Randy, and this is my look at the best artists or bands A to Z in my vinyl record collection. Uh, I know this thread has gone around before, but has resurfaced with Glen Kellaway from the Basement, who did his. I'm fairly new to the vinyl community, so I have not done one before. And I know a lot of these can be argued who is the best, actually. I guess it's more of my favorites. I'd like to hear your favorites as well. And so it's going to be A to Z. Each letter of the alphabet, I'm going to pick the band or artist that I care the most about. And I guess we'll get started. But what I want to preface this is, I have said this before, but when I decided to expand my horizons in music, I bought the Rolling Stone record guide, and I started looking at the 4- and 5-star albums in the record guide, and one of the first ones I bought using this process was my A choice, and that's Mose Allison. Jazz artist, has some kind of sarcastic lyrics in some of his songs. He's been covered from everyone from The Who to Van Morrison. But I've got a lot of his music on CD. I bought it during the CD time, but this is one of the ones I bought when I was going through my Rolling Stone record guide buying spree. And this is the best of Mose Allison. Your Mind is on Vacation. That's a very good song there. And I'll go to the B's. And this is one of the letters I'm probably going to get a lot of flack about. There's the Beatles, the Beach Boys. But another artist that I found in the Rolling Stone record guide was Bobby Bland for my B's. And as soon as I heard his voice, I just had to buy everything I could by him. He started out more bluesy, and he's been called the Black Frank Sinatra. I don't know if that's an apt title, but he does have one of these wonderful, soulful voices. And this is one of my all-time favorite albums, which is 2 Steps from the Blues, which is a great title song, and it's got one of my favorite songs of all time, his version of St. James Infirmary. But 2 Steps from the Blues, Bobby Bland is my B. C, Johnny Cash, or several other artists I considered, but I ended up choosing Elvis Costello. This is the UK cover, this one. This is a back cover on the American release. The reason I like the American release, it has probably my favorite Elvis Costello song, and that's What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding, even though Nick Lowe actually wrote it. But one of my all-time favorite albums, Armed Forces, Elvis Costello. And original release also had a 45 in there, Live at Hollywood High, which is also great, and a couple great versions, live versions of a couple of his songs, including Watching Detectives, which I think is the best version of that is on there. Okay, then we get to D, and there's several people I considered, but one of my favorite artists is in D, and that's Bob Dylan. My favorite album of his is actually Blood on the Tracks, which some of these I'm showing are my favorite album by the artist, and some of them I just decided to show another one for some reason. But this is Highway 61 Revisited. It's got Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues is one of my favorites of his. But it's got Like a Rolling Stone, one of the greatest rock songs ever. And Bob Dylan is my D, Highway 61 Revisited. E is one of the ones that nobody came to mind right away. And then I decided to choose Duke Ellington. This is Masterpieces by Ellington. This was done by Analog Productions. Beautiful. I had seen someone on the VC talked about how wonderful this album sounded, and so I ended up buying it, and it does sound marvelous. But Duke Ellington is going to be my E. Now for F, there was a couple ones I thought of, but I ended up choosing Fleetwood Mac. This is a little known album of theirs, kind of Kiln House. This is after Gatefold there. This was after I think Green had left, and it just basically Jeremy Spencer and Danny Kerwin were kind of the leaders at that time. But it's a wonderful album, a little more country influenced. Kiln House. All right, next A, B, C, D, E, F, and now G. And this is one that was a little difficult for me to figure out, but end up picking the Guess Who. This is the best of the Guess Who. This is one of the early albums I bought in my younger days. But yeah, it's a wonderful album. I got all their great songs, or most of their great songs are on here. But the Guess Who is my G. After that is H. And I'm a big John Hyatt fan, but I had to pick Jimi Hendrix. This is his Axis Bold as Love album. Gatefold here. 6 was 9. Just some wonderful songs on this one. So yeah, had to go with Jimmy on that one. G, H, and I is the next letter, and I do love the impressions, but Chris Isaak is who I end up choosing. You Owe Me Some Kind of Love, I think it's the song on here. Let me get my glasses, make sure here. Yeah, You Owe Me Some Kind of Love, Heart Full of Soul, his take on that. Crying, Waiting for the Rain to Fall. Wonderful album by Chris Isaak. And he gave me that Elvis Presley Sun Sessions kind of feeling on some of his music, and has that kind of somber tone, but really wonderful voice and unique voice. Chris Isaak is my I. And then J, well, I had to put some country in here, and I just put my favorite country artist, and that's George Jones. This one's Mr. Country and Western Music. The Selfishness in Man. You really need to hear that song. It's a wonderful song by George Jones. Best voice in country music, according to me. H-I-J-K, and then we go to K, and who else but the Kinks. This is Arthur. This didn't have a lot of hits on it, but it was kind of a unique album at the time, and really one that grows on you over time. But the Kinks is my K. So J-K-L. There's another one that I'm gonna get a lot of flack for, because I do love Led Zeppelin, but probably the artist I have more music by than any other artist, including 3 Bear Family box sets and all kinds of CDs and records, and that's Jerry Lee Lewis. He just turned 85 recently. It's coming up, or he just turned 85, I can't remember now. But this is his album, Who's Gonna Play This Old Piano? It's a classic in his country period. But yeah, one of my favorite, probably my favorite country album is this one here, Who's Gonna Play This Old Piano by Jerry Lee Lewis. And go to M, and there's no doubt about who's I'm gonna pick for M, is it's my favorite artist of all time, and that's Van Morrison. And you've probably seen me say this several times, that I think this is the best album ever. But this is Van Morrison's Astral Weeks, Starting out with the title track, Sweet Thing. Madam George is probably my favorite Van Morrison song, which is on here. Just a wonderful, mystical, stream of consciousness lyrics. Great Van Morrison album. My M. Get to N. And another one of my favorite artists, and that's Randy Newman. This is Sail Away. First album I got by him was Rednecks, which is also a wonderful album. But this is also critically acclaimed and classic album. Sail Away, Lonely at the Top, God's Song, which is a wonderful song. You should hear Etta James' version of God's Song because it is magnificent. But Randy Newman is my N. And you go to O, and another person with a unique voice, kind of reminds me of Chris Isaak's, kind of like maybe the modern day Roy Orbison with that wonderful voice. Pretty Woman, Only the Lonely. This is a hits compilation. Everybody knows that he was in the Traveling Wilburys for a while, but need to check out Roy Orbison's content. He's just a wonderful artist, Roy Orbison. It's my O. And then P, although I had a lot of P's that I love Graham Parker and quite a few others, but how can you go against the king? Elvis Presley. Elvis is back. I think I saw where they were, was it Analog Productions or someone was reissuing this, but this is an old copy, but it was a 50th anniversary copy, I guess. But wonderful album by Elvis, and so many great songs. I love the Sun Sessions, but one of the most important artists in rock, and that's Elvis Presley, and this is a great album as Elvis is back. Okay, I have P, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q. There weren't a lot of choices in Q. I had Quicksilver Messenger Service and a group called Q Feel. I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but then I ended up picking Queen. These are lesser known of their albums as jazz, or lesser known to me, I guess. But it has, I can't think of Bicycle Race, I think's on here. Yeah, Bicycle Race, Fat Bottom Girls, Don't Stop Me Now, Dreamer's Ball, which I kind of like. So, but wonderful album by Queen. Queen is my Q. Then R, there wasn't a lot of question about that, and that's going to be the Rolling Stones. Exile on Main Street is my favorite Rolling Stones album, but I chose to pick one a little, doesn't get all the recognition it deserves, I think, and that's Rolling Stones' Black and Blue album, which has Memory Motel, which is one of my all-time favorite Stones songs. Underrated album by the Stones, I think, Black and Blue. And then for S, there's a lot of S's that I could have picked, but I had to go with The Boss and one of my all-time favorite albums, and that's Born to Run. And 1975, this came out, and I just remember listening to this and thinking it was one of the greatest things ever, and I still do. Born to Run, 10th Avenue Freeze Out Night, Backstreets, Born to Run, She's the One, Meeting Across the River, Jungle Land. All great songs. I mean, every single one of these. I did it on my perfect albums, and it still is a perfect album. And then after S's comes T, and probably maybe my favorite Motown act, and that's The Temptations. Smokey Robinson song, My Girl, love that one. Ain't Too Proud to Beg. My Baby, Don't Look Back, Get Ready. All these songs are great. Anyway, Cloud Nine. They get a little psychedelic and funky later on. Running Child, Running Wild, but just the one, probably the best Motown act, as far as I'm concerned, is The Temptations with Eddie Kendrick singing, and Teddy Pendergast. Yeah, was that the other person? Eddie Kendrick. No, David Ruffin. Yeah, can't think of what I'm saying. Yeah, David Ruffin, Eddie Kendrick, are beautiful. The Temptations. STU is the next one, and I just had to give it to U2. I know people love or hate U2, but I'm one of the love U2. Even their later stuff I think is wonderful. And this has one of my favorite songs of theirs, Bad, but I also really love the live version of that. But this is The Unforgettable Fire by U2. V is one of my favorite songwriters, and that's Townes Van Zandt. But most of what I have of his, I have on CD. Unfortunately, I do have a best of on album. But this was the album that got me into Townes Van Zandt. There was a guy playing this album in the record store, and I was going like, who is that? And he told me it was Townes Van Zandt, which I got at home and I played a little and then kind of didn't play it for a while, but I got back and played it later, and now I just love this album. But At My Window, Townes Van Zandt, Buxton Stallion Blues, and Snowing on Rattan are two of my favorites in here. And then go to W, and Aaron Mutha-Alamayer will know who that's going to be, and several others, and that's definitely The Who. And this is Who's Next, my favorite Who album. Well, some people maybe have gotten tired of all the radio play that these songs got, or they heard them every week on one of the CSI shows. But I still love it, and that's Who's Next. Bob O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again. My Wife, I think the best John Entwistle song. Song Is Over, Getting Into Going Mobile. Just another one of those where every song is great on this album. Who's Next? The Who. And go to X. There was a couple I could have chose on X. Could have chose XTC, which I thought about, but then I changed my mind. And great LA punk band, X. This is one of the first ones I bought by them, and that's Under the Big Black Sun. It's got the title track, which I really like, and Riding with Mary, Have Nots. But it's a wonderful group, X. And you got Y. I thought about choosing Steve Young, which maybe a lot of people may not know, great songwriter, wrote Seven Bridges Road, the Eagles covered. It's probably his best known song, but I have to go with Neil. After the Gold Rush is actually my favorite Neil album, but I do love this one as well, and that's Rust Never Sleeps, because Powderfinger is one of my all-time favorite Neil Young songs, and it's Rust Never Sleeps from Neil Young, my Y. And down to the last one, Z. And for me, that's got to be Warren Zevon. And this, to me, is one of the best live albums. I should do a live album thing, but this is one of my favorite live albums. That's Stand in the Fire. I guess they've, thought about, I have not gotten the CD, which I guess they put some extra cuts on. But this Stand in the Fire is... his version of Werewolves in London is great on this too, but the whole album is just raw and energetic, and Warren Zevon is my Z. And that's my groups and artists from A to Z. Welcome anybody's comments on who they think some of those should have been filled by, and anybody else that wants to do it. I guess, you probably have, some of you have probably done it before, since it's, I guess, an older thread, but thanks, Glenn, for starting it again, and hope everyone is doing well, and take care.